Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Q&A. Today's question is, why do we hate being in the spotlight and have this habit of self-loathing? I really have this tendency to avoid getting loud and get so toned down. Why, oh why? So things we do are in responses to things we've lived. And I've spoken on many occasions about the survival mechanism we have in childhood, where we suppress certain traits of our character in response to our caregivers' reactions to us. So, for example, it could be something from our childhood where our parents really disliked loud noises or believed that children should be seen and not heard. And then any time that we were loud or rambunctious, we were scolded and perhaps punished. So obviously we would develop a reflex to keep ourselves small and quiet, not to disturb the grown-ups and not to get into a conflict situation with them. It could also be from intergenerational trauma. For example, if we come from cultures where there was genocide present or racism. I personally come from a country, was born in the Soviet Union, so a totalitarian regime where being noticed, being seen was dangerous, speaking your truth was life-threatening. People were imprisoned and killed for speaking the truth that wasn't popular or that wasn't allowed by the authorities. So all of these may have an influence into the way we are shaped, and by the time we become adults, we have this inbuilt mechanism to keep ourselves quiet and small. Another thing that is very pervasive in our society is that there is this belief that we are born wrong, and then this institution of parenting and education is there to correct us, to make us better, that we're too wild, too unruly if we're not civilized. And as a mother, I know that I'm often judged as to how polite my children were viewed or how well they were able to behave among other people. So all of this really drives home this idea that we're really not to be spoken, that we really shouldn't be too loud, that we really shouldn't express ourselves. And also coming out of codependency, right? And relationships where other people's reactions were judged as our responsibility. So, for example, if we say something that somebody else doesn't like, if we feel something that is disagreeable to other people, they will then hold us accountable, and it could create all kinds of problems, even within families. So all this is to explain why we often hate being in the spotlight and have a habit of self-loathing, right? Because we just, we've been raised with these messages that we are wrong, that we are unruly, that we are, that we don't know how to express ourselves properly. And we really just realize when we are grown-ups that we just don't want to be seen or heard. It just becomes much easier to keep ourselves small, to keep ourselves from expressing, and it just feels safer this way. And I've personally spent many, many years in that condition. I remember clearly how I just, not to ruffle feathers, I preferred to just stay numb and mute. So, of course, life is to arrive at full self-expression and to speak freely. So in order to get to that potential, in order to reach our potential, we need to be able to allow ourselves that range of expression of everything that we are. And we are born with this potential already within us, right? So even as we reduce our self-concept into that narrow, straight line of what is allowed and what is acceptable by the people with whom we share our lives or by society at large, the point of our being here is to understand who we are and to come into our full expression. So I think it's really important to understand that what our habitual self-concept, what we are used to feeling ourselves from the inside, is not the full picture, and that everything that we need to be is already within us. So it's really trying to come into a fuller expression of who we are and get away from that very habitual way of showing ourselves to the world. So change, right? Coming out of the habitual ways of being. And I think it is actually easier than we perceive it to be, because we think that change requires actual changing of everything that we are. But if we think about it from the point of view that we are already everything we need to be, everything that we've come here to be is already within us, and it's just a matter of going within, finding those pieces of ourselves, finding our full range, understanding that there is more to us, and that to every smallness there is a largeness, and to every to every expression that seems not quite, your best, there is also that other opposite, which is quite wonderful. So understanding that we are not just one or the other, not just a failure or success, we are everything in between. And it's a change, and going toward our potential merely means opening up as much as possible of who we are and allowing ourselves to be that, and trying it out and testing it out, and perhaps, with daily small steps, allowing yourself to do things a little bit differently. Getting out of our habitual response is what most of my work entails, both personally and with my clients. So really allowing yourself to try new things, to have new experiences, and even to have new experiences of who you are. Of course, that requires a huge amount of deconditioning and facing yourself and understanding who you are, and understanding the full range of who you are. So, of course, self-loathing is not natural anyway. So I think part of going toward a happier life is really getting in contact with everything that we are, and learning to bring all those pieces online, learning to integrate in our fullness, and then accepting it and starting to show it. Starting to be seen in your full expression is what it's all about. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next week.